The sun was setting over the sprawling city of New Haven, casting long shadows across its towering skyscrapers and bustling streets. The air buzzed with the hum of hover cars zipping through designated lanes high above the ground. Humanity had advanced far beyond what anyone in the 21st century could have imagined. Space travel was routine, artificial intelligence governed most aspects of life, and interstellar diplomacy shaped global politics. But not everyone embraced this new era. In a small, forgotten corner of the galaxy, on an unassuming planet called Terra 7, lived a group of engineers who refused to abandon their roots. They were led by a man named Elias, a wiry figure with graying hair and calloused hands that spoke volumes about decades spent tinkering with machines. His team consisted of a handful of like-minded individuals: Mira, a soft-spoken but brilliant programmer; Theo, a mechanic whose laugh could fill any room; and Quinn, the youngest among them, whose curiosity often got him into trouble. Elias's workshop was tucked away in the shadow of one of Terra 7's few remaining natural forests. It wasn't much to look at, a ramshackle building surrounded by rusting parts and half-finished projects. But it was theirs. Inside, the walls were lined with blueprints and diagrams scrawled on scraps of paper. A large metal table stood in the center, covered in tools and components. Above it all hung a faded banner bearing the words, "Progress is built on tradition." For years, Elias and his team had been working on something they called Project Legacy, a prototype weapon system powered entirely by analog technology. To outsiders, it seemed laughable. Why bother with clunky circuits and wires when quantum processors could do the job faster and more efficiently? The rest of the galaxy had moved on, leaving behind what they considered relics of a bygone age. And ridicule was exactly what Elias faced whenever he dared to present his work. At conferences, other scientists would smirk as he explained how his device operated without relying on AI or digital systems. Diplomats rolled their eyes when he suggested that analog tech might hold the key to defending against unforeseen threats. Even some of his own people dismissed him as a nostalgic fool clinging to the past. "They'll see," Elias muttered one evening as he adjusted a dial on the prototype. "One day, they'll realize we weren't wasting our time." Mira glanced up from her workstation. "Do you really think so, Elias? Sometimes I wonder if we're fighting a losing battle." "We're not losing anything," he replied firmly. "We're preserving knowledge. Someday, when everything else fails, this will be what saves us." His conviction was unwavering, even if others doubted him. But little did Elias know, the day of reckoning was closer than he thought. It began with a transmission. Late one night, as Theo tinkered with a faulty capacitor and Quinn reviewed lines of code on an old-fashioned monitor, the comm unit crackled to life. Static gave way to a voice, strained and urgent. "This is Captain Rhea of the Galactic Defense Fleet. To all listening frequencies, we are under attack." Elias froze mid-solder. "What did she say?" "She said they're under attack," Mira repeated, her face pale. "But how? No one's declared war on us in decades." The transmission continued. "An unknown fleet has entered our sector. Their ships are unlike anything we've seen before. Our defenses are failing. Repeat, our defenses are failing." Quinn's fingers trembled as he adjusted the frequency, trying to get a clearer signal. Who are these guys? And why can't we stop them? No one had an answer. All they knew was that the invaders' technology was unlike anything humanity had encountered. Their weapons bypassed shields effortlessly, rendering state-of-the-art defenses useless. Within hours, reports poured in of entire colonies being overrun, cities reduced to rubble, and fleets obliterated in minutes. Panic spread like wildfire. Governments scrambled to respond, but every attempt ended in failure. The invaders' tactics were relentless, their technology seemingly impervious to countermeasures. Humanity's greatest minds convened emergency meetings, searching for a solution, but none came. That's when Elias received a message from Admiral Halstead, commander of the Terran forces. "Elias," the Admiral's voice rasped through the comm, "I know you've been working on something unconventional. If there's ever a time to prove your theories, it's now." Elias exchanged glances with his team. This was it, the moment they'd been preparing for. Whether they succeeded or failed, there was no turning back. By dawn, Project Legacy was ready. The weapon was mounted aboard a retrofitted freighter, hastily equipped with basic shielding and minimal armaments. It looked absurd next to the sleek, cutting-edge warships lining the dock. Soldiers openly snickered as Elias and his crew boarded the vessel, shaking their heads at the patchwork contraption. "You sure this thing works?" one officer asked skeptically. "It'll work," Elias replied curtly. He didn't have time for doubters anymore. As the freighter launched into orbit, the battlefield came into view. The invaders' ships loomed large, dark monoliths bristling with weaponry. Explosions lit up the void as human vessels tried, and failed, to penetrate their defenses. The odds were overwhelmingly against them. "All right, team," Elias said over the ship's intercom. "Let's show them what outdated can do." Mira monitored the targeting system while Theo kept a close eye on the engine diagnostics. Quinn manned the controls, guiding the freighter toward the nearest enemy vessel. As they approached, the invaders unleashed a barrage of energy beams, each shot slicing through space like lightning. "Hold steady," Elias shouted, gripping the edges of his seat. "Wait for my mark." At the last possible second, he activated Project Legacy. The weapon emitted a low hum, growing louder as it charged. Then, with a blinding flash, it fired. What happened next defied explanation. The invader's ship shuddered violently, its once impenetrable shields flickering and collapsing. Secondary explosions erupted across its hull, sending debris spiraling into the void. One by one, the other ships followed suit, their advanced systems overwhelmed by the sheer unpredictability of analog interference. Cheers erupted aboard the freighter as the tide of battle turned. Human forces seized the opportunity, regrouping and launching coordinated assaults. For the first time since the invasion began, hope returned to the galaxy. In the aftermath, Elias and his team became heroes. Scientists flocked to study Project Legacy, eager to understand how such primitive technology had achieved what modern innovations could not. Politicians praised Elias for his foresight, though he brushed off their accolades with a modest smile. Back at the workshop, the banner still hung proudly above the cluttered workspace. But now, someone had added a new line beneath the original slogan. Asterisk sometimes, the future lies in the past. Asterisk. As Elias sat down to sketch out ideas for his next project, he couldn't help but chuckle. After all, it wasn't every day that outdated tech saved the galaxy.